This video is brought to you by Squarespace. That's a platform where you can build a real good website, or blog, or gallery, or store. Other things, probably. It's an exciting proposition. Okay, on with the video. Movies. What do you say about them? I mean, everything's been done. All editorials seem to be just a rehash of someone else's ideas. And in the spirit of that, let's talk movies that you might be surprised are set in the same universe. A shared cinematic universe is commonplace nowadays with your Marvels and your DCs and your Universal movie monsters and your Robin Hoods. Yeah, this has gone too far. And you know what? I blame Predator 2 for all this. They put the alien skull in, putting that idea in everyone's head. You remember when this happened? People were freaking out. They were like, oh my god, Alien and Predator set the same universe. I can't wait for 20th Century Fox to sit on this idea for 14 years and then release a watered-down PG version of the concept that takes everything that's iconic about these two franchises and mashes them together in the dullest version imaginable. Also, I hope there's an underground ice pyramid. Anyways, let's get into 10 movie universes that are linked. Or are they? Maybe it's 10. I didn't bother counting. What fun. Movies are fun, aren't they? And at the end of this, like we do every Sunday, I'll be giving away a loot crate and reveal who won the one from last week. Yeah. The Rock might be the only Michael Bay movie that I genuinely like. And not as in, I find this entertaining because it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And you know what? If you don't agree with me, and you don't think Armageddon's dumb, well, Ben Affleck does, so in your face.
Like 8 whole months, as if that's not enough time to learn how to drill a hole. But in a week, we're gonna learn how to be astronauts. 1 whole week? Now you know how to fly into space? I need my guys. Why do you need them? They're the best. Everyone's the best. Why are they the best? I don't know. They just are.
But that's irrelevant. Okay, so there's a theory hinted at throughout The Rock that John Patrick Mason is actually James Bond, who was captured by the Americans 33 years prior and imprisoned for stealing a microfilm that holds a bunch of state secrets. Now, there's a number of reasons why this could be the case. He's said to be former British intelligence. He uses a classic James Bond line.
Well, I'm Stanley Goodspeed.
But of course you are.
Hi, I'm Plenty.
But of course you are.
He's a murderer and has no problem with that. Plus, well, he looks exactly like Bond. Or at the very least, that guy from Zardos. Now, the timeline for this, it doesn't actually hold up. It says he was captured in 1962, whereas Connery continued to play the role in 1963, 1964, 1965, 1967, 1971, and then unofficially in 1983. But the timeline of the film is also all over the shop. The microfilm he took holds the secret as to who shot JFK, and JFK was shot a year after that was stolen. So really, it's probably more of a homage than anything else. Or, this film exists in an alternate timeline to us. Seeing as when you try to compile your thoughts and put it in a video, it doesn't really make sense and you have to kind of go on to the next thing. But do you want another one that's a bit of a stretch? Collateral, which is this intense, super serious Tom Cruise crime thriller that may concurrently have Frank Martin, Jason Statham's character from the Transporter series, running around Europe or something, greasing himself up and fighting a bunch of blokes with bike pedals on his feet. Because there's this weird moment in Collateral where Jason Statham rocks up as this unnamed character, delivers a package to whatever the guy Tom Cruise is called, and then he just wanders off. Is it the same guy? Well, it's never been confirmed, but if it's not meant as at least an intentional nod at the very least, then I don't see why it would have been included. And I want Collateral to exist in a world where a man can deflect a rocket with a serving tray. I mean, that bit was only included in the trailer and not the final film because it was thought the audience would find it ridiculous, but at the same time they left this in. I'm just saying. Okay, so this one isn't actually any kind of secret. It just blows my mind. If you've seen any of the Spy Kids films, well, great, well done. And if you haven't, I don't really know how to best explain them. You know what? Imagine if Harry Potter wasn't a wizard, but a spy. And imagine there was another character from Harry Potter who was also included. Let's say Ron, who was also a spy, but also a girl. Anyways, Danny Trejo shows up in the films sporadically, mostly to act as their version of Q. He hands him a bunch of tech, and he's a little bit gruff, but he's got a heart of gold. And then he goes off and murders a bunch of people in the most brutal way imaginable. Because remarkably, Uncle Machete from the Spy Kids films is the same Machete from the Machete films. It's astounding. It would be like if Harry Potter was actually a Mexican assassin and Ron was also there, but instead of being friends, he's a guy that gets his intestines used by Harry as a means for him to rappel out of a hospital window. I honestly can't think of another character from a kids film that was then spun off into their own thing and committed such acts of violence. Maybe there's another example of this. Who knows? And if you've got one, why don't you bloody you hit me up on Twitter. Or whatever, don't worry about it. Did you see G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra? You know what? It's not actually terrible. It's more fun than people give it credit for. But at the same time, if you haven't, you don't need to watch it. Okay, so Brendan Fraser rocks up at one point on one of those motorcycles for people who have no sense of balance, and then proceeds to train the new Joes, their latest recruits, Duke, and the Wayne's brother, who was also Snails in Dungeons & Dragons. I remember hearing somewhere, and I couldn't find anything to back this up, that his character of Sergeant Stone is a distant relation of Rick O'Connell from The Mummy. Now, like I said, I have no evidence to back this up, but both G.I. Joe and The Mummy are directed by Stephen Sommers, and also Brendan Fraser was once in an interview like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I could be his great-grandson or something like that. Okay, again, maybe that one's a bit of a stretch. Fine. Casper is in the Ghostbusters universe, and he's so frightening that even Dan Aykroyd with a mustache can't deal with it. And he was possessed by a 16th century medieval sorcerer who was trapped in a painting. Also, an article recently appeared in Luke Cage that indicates a version of Doc Brown exists in the Marvel Universe, and that he got into trouble for having an unorthodox relationship with a teenage boy in 1985 called McFly. And you know what? I'm glad somebody finally said it. But all of this pales in comparison to the Alien / Prometheus / Blade Runner / Soldier / Star Trek / Star Wars / E.T. / Indiana Jones averse. That's all one thing. And I can prove it sort of off the back of other people's observations. Alright, on the Prometheus Blu-ray, which of course is a prequel to the original Alien, there's a piece written by Guy Pearce's character, Peter Wayland, where he details a relationship he had with a mentor, which is hinted at being Eldon Tyrell, CEO of the Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner. It mentions how he ran his corporation like a god on top of a pyramid overlooking a city of angels, which is quite literally what he did, and he goes on to say that he thought it was amusing that Tyrell had implanted false memories in robots, which again we saw in Blade Runner. And on the topic of Blade Runner, that's getting its own sequel. Yes, it's called Blade Runner. Here's another Blade Runner. Stop asking for another Blade Runner sequel. Jesus, we're doing it. It has Ryan Gosling. Stop asking, seriously. Harrison Ford even came back, like he did for Star Wars. Did you see that one? A lot of people loved it initially, but now there's this backlash. I'm not really sure if it's justified, if I'm honest. Anyways, this is the second Blade Runner. Blade Runner, though, already has a spin-off movie. 1998 Soldier with Kurt Russell, because that's got a few winks and nods linking them, such as the inclusion of a trashed spinner. There's also a brief shot of Kurt Russell's service record, which nods towards a number of his movies, including Tango and Cash, but also Star Trek, as the Nibian Moons campaign, the Antares War, and the War of Perdition's Flames are noted, all of which are referenced in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
I'll chase him round the moons of Nibia and round the Antares maelstrom and round Perdition's flames before I give him up.
From here, we can make the jump over to Star Wars, because in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek from 2009, R2-D2 is seen flying through space. I don't know why, but he's a droid. He could potentially live forever. And Star Wars is set a long time ago. According to one comic, 126 years before Indiana Jones, as Han Solo crashed the Millennium Falcon into Earth, was killed by natives, and then Chewbacca spent over a century wandering the forest, being mistaken for Bigfoot before Jones came across him and the body of Han Solo. But to be fair, this is a non-canonical story, so I can't really confirm that they're linked, unless I showed you this from Raiders of the Lost Ark, a carving of both C-3PO and R2-D2. Side note, there's a fan theory that the Indiana Jones films are all fevered dreams of Han Solo during his stint of being frozen in carbonite, and his regular memories are like bleeding through, because we see OB and CPO on the side of a plane, Club Obi-Wan, and Carbonetta. Also, Dan Aykroyd again appears with a mustache. I don't know why that would be in his subconscious, but it's there. What do you want me to say? And of course, I think everyone knows this, but Star Wars is set in the E.T. universe. As we get some E.T.s, they probably have names, I don't know. But they're in the Phantom Menace. Also, I did a video on this already, but I'm fairly certain E.T. himself is a Jedi. I mean, he's magic for no reason. Explain that. Hit me up on Twitter. Nah, you know what, don't. I don't care. Okay, before we give some stuff away, it would be remiss of me not to again mention Squarespace, because otherwise I won't get paid, but also because when you sign up with Squarespace, you get a custom URL for free, in addition to a collection of amazing and easy to use website templates. And if you're like, wait, This is hard. I don't understand this. First of all, you're wrong. But secondly, there's 24/7 customer support available, which is a wonderful service that they provide. You can start your free trial today at squarespace.com/MrSundayMovies and enter the offer code SUNDAY for 10% off. How bloody terrific is that? Also, here's the winner of last week's Loot Crate. If you're that person, just private message me those details and it's all yours. And if you want to win next week's box, just leave any comment below. It could perhaps be on your favorite shared universe. Even if you know most of them are just small nods that don't really imply that they're set in the same world. They're just some things that filmmakers put in because, they were mucking around. And then maybe somebody compiled them into one video because, they took it way too seriously. Maybe. Also, this Monday on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, we're talking movies, comics, TV shows, all of that like we normally do. And the big news from New York Comic Con. That's linked below. Check it out if you want. It's absolutely fine if you don't, though. You don't have to. Thanks for watching this, though. I appreciate it. Take care.